Welcome to Fearless with Sharp. I am Sharp, aka Bake Sharpie, your host. Thank you for spending time with me today. I am gonna be talking with someone that's super special to me.
Yeah.
She is my girlfriend. Her name is Kat, and we're gonna be talking about overcoming challenges and prioritizing growth. So, Kat, if you could just tell the chat a little bit about yourself so they know who you are and what you do.
Right now, I'm working. Oh yeah, I'm working full time, in sales, and I also dance and perform with Insomniac here and there, but events are canceled or postponed, so rip. um, but yeah, I dance and I also work full time, and I'm into personal development and stuff. So
And so the first thing that we're going to be talking about is overcoming challenges. And I feel like I feel like in our lives there are times where people have to go through obstacles that they didn't even think that they'd have to go through. And maybe people in their lives make it harder for them or make it easier for them, and it causes the person to find other types of support systems and stuff like that. And I feel like Chad and everyone listening could learn a lot from your experience. And so, do you think you can tell a little bit, or tell a child a little bit about your experience at university
yeah.
and how that was for you? Like, what school did you go to?
Okay, what school I went to? Okay, so I graduated and I went to UCI, UC Irvine, and like I think it's a lot of people can relate to this just growing up, and like my parents being like immigrants and my family being immigrants, like it was very like ingrained in me that I was going to college and that like life would be as so I thought like all good and gravy, um like after college, right? Like my life would be perfect because I have a degree and I can get like a pretty high paying job and I'd be like happy and then like, happily ever after with like my life. But I think one of the biggest blessings that I had as I was going to university is that I did work kind of full time before I went to college. So I kind of got a taste of what it would be like when I would be out of college and if I would work with a company. So like basically kind of like 9 to 5 ish, 9 to 4. And I just kind of like noticed it within myself that like I didn't feel great going to work. And I just kind of had that like little thought in my head of like, hey, is this really what life is going to be like when I graduate? Like maybe it might be a little bit more like exciting because I am maybe doing something I'm passionate about or like whatever it is. But then if it does end up being in like a corporate setting, like would I be happy? And would like it's just like a lot of questions. So then I think just that experience kind of planted a seed in my head that I started thinking about what I wanted to do post college already, even though I was like already starting. I was only starting out as the first year. So that in itself like really made me look at college with a different mindset because I wasn't there to just have fun and have good grades anymore or like whatever it is, but like really kind of started thinking about what it is and like what life would be like post college because eventually that would be like what I needed to do and started getting together on my path in college because I wasn't even like decided on a career or like a major I wanted to do. So I was just like really confused going into college thinking that like my problems were gonna get solved in one way or another. I'd like figure out what I wanted to do. But I spent like my first 2 years being like very lost. And all I knew was that I loved dance. And I think the biggest conflict was like, nah, I can't be a dancer full time.
Yeah, try and balance
Yeah.
dancing and working and making money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel I kind of want to ask you this question because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that may think that school isn't for them, and I agree that for people that are going through this, that the best thing for them to do is to be self-aware in what they want and what they like to do, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if school is gonna make you miserable and you feel like you can pursue your dream doing something else, then people are gonna notice that and support you like anyway.
Yeah.
And so for you, what was the experience like for you leaving university and pursuing your dream on an alternate path that might have felt different, or it's considered different by like
Yeah.
social norms?
That was a pretty, I think, chaotic experience, but like very eye-opening, because obviously it was kind of refreshing because it wasn't like a set path that I had to do. So I kind of had like freedom to kind of figure it out. But it was very chaotic in the sense of when I left university, it was just like a no-no in my family. Like it was like kind of this taboo subject of, oh my God, like she's leaving university, like she's dropping out. Like it was like family.
Yeah.
It was like,
family
she's
drama
dropping
to the
out.
max.
Like, oh my God, is she like a fail? Like, I literally felt like a failure, like doing that and making that decision. But like, again, like going back to your point about being self-aware and having that awareness of what you want to do and what you might like, the path you might want to go on
Yeah.
is like very important, because I made that decision to leave university because I saw other routes open that could get me to live a life that I wanted, but not be in like this never-ending cycle of just trying to pay the bills and stuff like that. Because I think that watching my cousins graduate university and do what they do,
Yeah.
like had their effects on me, because I'm like, well, I mean, they're still stressed out and they're still like, they don't 100% enjoy what they do. Like they might enjoy it to like a certain extent, but it's not like this, oh my God, like I'm passionate about what I'm doing and I'm like really excited every day about what I do.
Yeah.
Like they still complain about work, and like it's not to say that like following my dreams won't, like I won't have stuff, I won't need to do things I don't want to do, and like I would need to do things that aren't, you know,
You still have
necessarily
to do
like,
those
oh my
things,
God,
yeah.
like I love this, like, but I just felt like there had to be a better way. And I think that a lot of that happened because I met like people in business and like people that were going like an entrepreneurial route that like were able to create results in their life that did not look like any kind of results that I had immediately to me. That was like, hey, maybe like a different path's available, maybe like, and it just kind of got me going. And it was just like that seed that planted and started, you know,
I
growing in my mind.
When did you feel like you talked a little bit about how there's, I guess, some like entrepreneurial people that you met, and I'm assuming that made you feel more comfortable with leaving, because I feel like it's hard to like make that decision. So
yeah, yes and no.
When would you say was a time when you knew that that's what you wanted to do?
Probably my second year, because then my grades kept falling, and it was because obviously I wasn't like going like studying something I wanted to, or like in school I just wasn't pursuing, I wasn't in a major that like I felt like I could really like do. I just picked my major to pick it because I had to declare it. And then I just felt like very unhappy, and I felt like very, I just felt like I didn't, like I was losing grip on what I wanted in life.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's like, oh, like kind of like, you know how they say that like who you surround, like show me your friends and I'll show you like who you are, right? So like I started hanging out around a lot more people who were like had that entrepreneurial mindset that wasn't just about like finishing school and like you know, obviously getting a good job and XYZ. And my mind started expanding to like, oh, what else is out there, you know? And that wasn't really like advocated for me growing up. Like, oh, you could like yeah, I saw my family having their own small businesses, but like Nothing like, oh, like we could create like literally like what to do, what we're passionate about, and make money to fund what we're passionate about. And so as I started hanging around like more people like that, my mind started expanding, and I was like, well, like, and I felt kind of limited going to school because I wasn't doing something that I wanted,
like
and
passion,
I was super passionate about like, and I love school, but like if you're doing something that requires school, like 100%, like, you know, I think school is a great thing because it teaches you a lot of like good disciplines and, you know, like staying the course. But like, if you're just doing it to do it, like I felt like that was a waste of my time, especially if like one, financial aid, two, I was taking out loans and I already took out a bunch of loans to take summer classes so I can finish earlier. And I was like, what am I finishing earlier for?
Yeah,
like, I don't
true.
even know what I'm doing. Like, and I was like, dude, like, I can't keep racking up this debt and, you know, pretend like, oh, I'm going to like figure it out eventually, when maybe I should just take some time to figure it out. And if, you know, what I figure out that I want to do is school related and I need like
Then
specific like training
it.
for it, like that school, you know, has the curriculum for it, then obviously great. Like I'll go back to university. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Because it's like a goal.
Yeah, like it's a goal. Like it's like I have an end in mind. Like I literally had no end in mind, and I was just going to make everybody else happy. And at the same time, I was like hanging around people who were doing what they wanted and passionate about. And I'm like that could be me. Like why not take a break and
find out what
I want to do, and then go for it.
Yeah, I feel like I think there's like a stigma on people taking gap years. For example, whether that's during college and then maybe after their first year they want to take a gap year to figure things out. That's a lot of people think that, oh, that's bad, or there's a bad stigma about that. But I feel like if you need that time to figure out what it is that you want to do, then whether you go back to school or you pursue something else, then you're gonna be that much stronger in doing that. You know, you'll have more desire and push to do that. And also just from like another like point of view, because for me, I started after high school. I started at UCI, and then I was there for around 2.5 years before my grades slipped enough to the point where, you know, my counselor said that I either have to switch my major to stay here or withdraw from the school and continue elsewhere. And for me, being an engineer was one of my goals from high school. And I at the time I felt like that not being able to go to school wasn't going to stop me from becoming an engineer and like pushing for that goal, even though I almost technically had to start over. I mean, most of my coursework from UCI transferred over to, well, at first going to Irvine Valley College and then going to Cal State Long Beach. And so not all of it was wasted, but I did have to spend almost 3 years at Long Beach after spending a year at IVC. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned from going to school and having to learn things that I'm not necessarily good at in regards to the mechanical engineering, I think the best thing that I learned from going to school isn't the subjects that I'm learning, whether that's like heat transfer or fluid dynamics. It's the main thing is learning how I learn best. And I think once you figure that out, once you figure out how you learn and what's the best way for you to take information and like apply that into your own life, then you can like overcome any challenge that comes your way because you know how to learn and fix it. And I think that idea is mastered by a lot of entrepreneurs, because there's some entrepreneurs out there that let's just say they started a car company that became really successful, and like they knew almost nothing about cars, but because they surrounded themselves with the right people and they know how they learn, then as time goes on, they're able to learn everything just from pushing themselves, and they don't need that like knowledge already. And so I feel like Whether you decide to go to school or not, like knowing how you learn and knowing how like the best way to apply that knowledge to yourself is really important. I think you talked a little bit about this already, but so what was there any challenges for you that you had before leaving school versus after leaving schools that you felt like you had to overcome during that time?
That was just a lot, like
A lot of different things.
It was just like everything. It's just like I feel like, especially like being Asian American and like wanting to like just wanting to make my parents proud because obviously they like restarted their life here and like make my family proud. I think that was like a big like struggle for me because in my mind as I was leaving, I was like personally like if I didn't have to like it was like a 100% personal decision. Well, it is a personal decision because I had to make it, but I why I struggled with making a decision is because I felt like making the decision to leave because of the stigma of taking a gap year or like leaving school. Like I felt like I was letting my family down because like I felt like okay, everybody else did it before me.
Yeah.
Like what's wrong with me? Like that I can't go to college and I can't pick my major and I can't do this. So I think the decision why it was hard is because of that. Because of I cared so much about like I was like overthinking about the repercussions of me leaving, not so on myself, but like what my family would think. But also like going back and forth about it, I just thought like, you know, like I had to think about it in perspective of I'm the one that's like in charge of my life. I'm the one who's in control. So basically, if I'm happy or not is in my control.
Yeah.
So
You're in charge.
yeah, I'm in charge. So it's like if I'm gonna have to live with this decision for the rest of my life. Like it was kind of pivotal for me because I was like, I can go through and finish, but then will I be happy? Or would I leave right now and I'll cause some like disrupt here in like the family because of like like the whole stigma behind finishing school and like being scholarly and all that stuff, right? And kind of have them not understand at first but eventually understand, like work hard enough slowly understand, then yes, like that like both ends of the spectrum is hard because on one end of the spectrum, if I don't leave, then I'm unhappy and I don't like my life right now and I'm just miserable. Or the other hand, I might be miserable too because of how like the people around me feel, right? And people who I are my why feel, and my family, like how is it gonna like I don't know, mess up like the whole like of what dynamic of like what they think I'm gonna achieve and like all that stuff. But then I thought, ultimately I want to be happy. So I'm gonna figure it out. And I'm willing to take the leap of faith, as scary as it is, because one day they'll understand. Like I'm like if I leave, then yes, I'm gonna work hard because regardless I'm gonna work hard. But am I gonna work hard towards something that like I love and something I'm passionate about and something that I feel like will create the life that I want to live? Or am I working hard to please other people and to keep them happy while I'm not, and like I'm internally like struggling like to grasp a handle of things? That's kind of the whole challenge. And then the aftermath was just the whole managing expectations. I learned a lot about like how to communicate it, because at first I don't have the results. Like I don't have results of like why it was a great decision to leave. Like I don't have facts of like, hey, the only fact I have is like I feel better. I feel like I'm moving towards a path that's maybe more like aligned to me. What it is, I don't freaking know. But like I just know that I don't feel like caca every day, like going to class and not being present.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's like a great example of what you need to be able to like be that fearless person that pursues your dream, and knowing, and also just being self-aware enough to like take the jump and like push yourself to do that, to make a decision like that. because like I feel like I admire that a lot about you, because I feel like it's really hard. It's a really hard decision to make, and you were able to be you were able to be self-aware enough to know that even though your family may not have been happy about it, that like you put your like happiness, your responsibility for happiness, like on yourself, and then they have to conform to that. And then once you find it, then I feel like the the judgment is just gonna is just gonna disappear, even though it doesn't really matter like in the first place. Like
Yeah.
if you're if you weren't like happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that's really cool that you were able to do that, because I feel like it's really hard. It's almost it's so normal, and it's like it's such a norm in our like society for
Yeah.
us to do that, when I feel like there are a lot of things in school right now that there's a lot of things that are in life right now that I feel like should be taught in school,
Yeah.
and that that's
Definitely,
not.
it's
And
not. Yeah.
even though even though I went to almost done with school, like it's my last semester, I feel
Yeah.
like there's still a lot more for me to learn, and like I take that upon myself to learn it and not let school be the driver of my education. Like even though I'm going to be graduating, even though I walked already, even though I'm going to be done with classes, like I know for a fact that I'm not done being a student yet, and there's still so much more for me to learn. And I think that mindset, whether that's in school or not school or whatever it is that you want to do, is really important to like live a fearless lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is I feel like this is a question that only at least like only you can answer, because I can't answer because I'm in school.
Okay.
But what do you feel like you could learn about this whole situation that you can't learn from anywhere else?
I think like going back to what you're saying about how to lead like how to live fearlessly,
Mm-hmm.
or like also like how to live courageously. I think that like being courageous is one of the things that um I learned out from this experience, that I feel like you can learn in school, but like just like the circumstances, because it's like you look at it, you have this like I had like to deal with the stigma of of finishing school and like
Mm-hmm.
being that like daughter that made my parents proud and like my family proud too, and like kind of carrying on like the norm of the family, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so being courageous enough to go against the grain,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's very hard to do, and you have to have like faith in yourself that like no matter what it is that's thrown at you, like you will be over
Go through
like
it.
to go through it, and like be resourceful enough to like if you don't know the information, then find out how to learn that, or someone who knows it who can teach it to you. And like I think that's like the biggest thing that like school doesn't really teach you, is like going after it. Like because school, like there's a curriculum, like if you do A plus B plus C, like you get this result, right? But like life isn't like that. Like you no,
It's true.
like you will throw like there'll be
Very
so many
true.
curveballs. And I think that like this whole experience like made me realize like how much in control I am, and how my mindset is like everything, like how I think about something or how I think something's going to turn out, and like my perspective on how it is like is like is very influential to like the decisions that I make. Like the filter that I see my life in is gonna like ultimately show me like dictate what kind of decisions I'm gonna make, because I want to like ultimately as human beings want to be right about like what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like that, and like being courageous and taking the leap,
I see.
because I feel like that's with anything
Yeah.
in life. Like you have to like be willing to take the leap, or else like you're just gonna keep missing out on the things that you want.
That's crazy. I feel like one of the things that you said, how in school it can be so black and white, and life isn't necessarily black and white. That's such a true thing because there's I feel like there, especially if you're trying to create a life for yourself, the answer to that question isn't always going to be like yes or no, and sometimes you're gonna have to keep pushing, and there's not going to be any result. But and that like idea isn't taught in school, and so if I were to start a university or college, then I would definitely be putting curriculum in there that is about growth and about
Yeah.
living fearlessly and personal development, because like if you're even for like doctors and stuff, like yeah, you're gonna have to go through 8+ years of school, but like right now, like just an example, like the coronavirus is spreading like wildfire in the other side of the world, and their doctors are out there trying to figure out a cure, and it's not like in school.
Yeah.
It's not like you can put these two things together and you'll
Yeah.
cure the cause. You
Yeah.
need to People like them are pushing every day to figure out how we can like solve this problem, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. And then moving on, so let's say one of your best friends is going through a similar situation where like they feel like school's not for them and they want to pursue something else.
Hmm.
What kind of advice would you give that person after everything that you've gone through now?
I would ask her if she had a plan, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
That probably would have saved my butt a lot of times because I was like, yeah, let's just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't plan anything. I just like went for it, which is great. But I think in this case, if you're going to make a decision this big to
Mhm.
leave university,
Yeah.
and especially coming from a stigma where like your family wants you to finish university,
Yeah.
and knowing the repercussions of if you leave and how that's going to like affect the dynamic, I think a plan would be great.
Yeah.
Because then it's like it kind of saves your butt for a little bit.
Mhm.
It's not just like I just left because I'm not happy,
Yeah.
and I know there's something else. Like I didn't know how to describe what I was going through.
Mhm.
So like if I had my best friend going through that, I'd be like, so do you have a plan? Like, do you
Like, what you wanna
know
do?
what you want to do, or
Mhm.
like what's gonna happen after it,
Mhm.
and kind of have that like skeleton of what the plan is.
Mhm.
So then if she gets questions,
Like, you can
because she
figure it
will,
out.
like, you know, from everybody, you can't just say I don't know, because then it just looks like a reckless decision, even though you weren't making it because you were like, I don't want to go to school because I don't want
Yeah.
to do the work. Like
Mhm.
I was like, I don't want to go to school because this is not what I want. Like
Mhm.
I know. So having that plan, and then also yeah, just being able to communicate and having that conversation of why you're leaving.
Like with people that are supporting you?
Yeah,
Or-
with both sides, I think being like, I think the biggest thing is like I don't know how to like, I don't know if this is advice, but like I would ask her questions about like that would help her think about like in the self-awareness kind of aspect,
Mhm.
like why are you leaving?
Mm.
Like it can't just be a decision of, oh, I'm leaving
Like
because I don't like
laziness
it
or something?
Yeah, I don't like it, I don't want
Mhm.
to do the work. It was
Mhm.
like it has to be deeper than that. It has to be like, this isn't what I want,
Yeah.
and this is not leading me down the path. But just knowing how to communicate that,
Mhm.
and letting her, I would manage her expectations too. I would just be like, hey, like, just letting you know, like, this is going to be very emotional for you to leave
Yeah.
if your family expects you to finish.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a conversation that you need to keep having. And this is not to get you discouraged,
Mhm.
but it is because they have like a certain picture of what they want you to do,
Mhm.
and what they think you're gonna do, or like what it is. But like just having those transparent conversations
Yeah.
earlier on before you actually make the decision to leave, and being more transparent about that, I
Mhm.
think
Super
would
important.
probably
to
be
know.
the biggest advice I'd give to her. Because for me, because of the stigma, I was not transparent about it.
Yeah.
I left, and then
And that was it.
I waited until there was like many questions asked until I answered the question and been like, hey, yeah, I left university, I left college. I'm not choosing not to finish as of right now.
I see.
Yeah.
I feel like or if there's someone that feels like they get discouraged by a decision that they made in the past, or they feel regret or something, then what helps me a lot is I like to read stories about really successful people, because whenever I read a story about that, I feel really inspired, and they, most of the time, they come from a place that's way worse than what I was probably going through. I've read many stories about people who like were homeless and now they're really successful. I think a great example is Steve Harvey. He's gone through a lot in his life, and like being able to push through that and seeing like where he is now is like a super like big inspiration. And so whenever I feel discouraged, I always turn towards reading stories about those type of people, because it just helps me like understand what the mindset is to to get there, to overcome those challenges.
I think that too. I would definitely recommend her, if she isn't already, like reading books about people who overcome things and like trials and tribulations. I'd probably, and also obviously I'd like send her podcasts and stuff, so podcasts are like super popular now. And I think it's just like, even if you don't have the people that you can surround yourself with that like want or have the result that you want, if you can read the books of people that like have done it, or like listen to podcasts of people who are doing it, and you know, just like, you know, all the resources, YouTube videos, you know, all like content that you're like literally day by day consuming, like if you're able to surround yourself with like stories of that, I think that's like very encouraging, because it's like you might not have it figured out, but like it gives you hope that like you can figure it out. And it, you know, you probably take one golden nugget from like a podcast or everything, and like that, like who knows, like maybe listening to a podcast or reading a book might be like, oh my god, like yeah, like I never thought of like my situation like that, like even though it's totally unrelated, but like just like a perspective of how they're handling what they're going through, you're maybe like, huh, that makes you think about like how you're going about like whatever you're going through, and how you can get through it better. So
makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I think we're gonna transition over to more about prioritizing your growth, and like prioritizing growth in your relationship, and like that side, because I feel like it's something that we're both really passionate about, and we both really try to prioritize growth in our relationship and make sure that we support each other and help each other and push each other to reach their goals without, you know, without controlling the other person. And I think that's like a really important thing that I've learned in the past, and that I tried to push for like in the future, because it's something that I feel like it wasn't natural for me, you know. It might be natural for some people, but I think some people have to like learn and to go through that type of stuff. So we have a couple questions here that are from our manager, Archie. And we haven't seen these questions yet, but he wrote them out, and we're going to go ahead and go through some of them right now. So the first question is, how do you two prioritize growth in your relationship? So do you want to talk about that first?
I think prioritize growth by just doing it ourselves. And I think it's like leading by example, because I think it's kind of like what you were saying about like how we're still able to support each other in our growth and all that stuff, and grow in our own like dreams and aspirations, but still be able to like maintain our relationship and grow together. I think a big thing is why you're in a relationship in the first place, and
like knowing why you're
knowing why, like not because it's like, oh my god, it'd be so nice to be with someone, right? Like I just
Yeah.
want to be like cuddled and like held and like all that stuff, right? But like more so like why, like are you ready for a relationship, and why, like are you in a relationship because you want to be like completed by someone, or like that you feel like being in a relationship would make you happy? Because if not, if that is the case, then that relationship is not gonna, like, at least in my opinion, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of growth, because
Yeah.
your mindset and like your perspective is like, how is this person gonna serve me? And like that's not gonna get you anywhere, because once that person isn't like I've been on that line too, where I thought like that's why I was in a relationship before, in a previous relationship, and like I started feeling like that person had to make me happy, and once the person wasn't making me happy by like my expectations and XYZ, like that relationship was going like bad, because it was like I had an expectation, and I just felt like why our relationship works is because we don't have that expectation of each other, of like how we need to necessarily show up for each other. We just like we just prioritize our own growth, and we work on taking care of ourselves and making ourselves happy. So then when we're together, we're not like, oh my god, this, like, you need to make me happy, like you are my happiness, like
blaming it kind
like
of on the other
why
person.
aren't you making me happy, like why, you know, like it's yeah, I think that's why, that's how we prioritize our growth, by leading by example and doing it in our own lives.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I feel like for me, before I was in a relationship, when I was alone, I wasn't really looking for like someone or something to make me happy. It was always my job and my responsibility to like make myself happy. And when I finally like realized that, because I don't think I felt like that before, it relieved like a huge weight on my shoulders, because then it's not someone else's responsibility to make me happy, it's my own responsibility. And then that is what helped me, or allowed me to, you know, kind of share that with others and understand what it means to serve others, and also to be selfless, because you never know when like someone else just needs a little bit of encouragement or a little bit of support to like push through. And I think if you are in a like a truly happy place, then you can like be that encouragement for someone else. And that feeling and that idea is like magnetic for people. And it's kind of, it's almost like a way of being like a positive force in your relationships, and not just with your significant other, but like with like your friends and your family. You when you're pushing yourself the way that, when you're pushing others the way that you push yourself, like that like feeling is great. And I think that's one way to feel like truly happy, when you're like up there with people that are around you too. And so, all right, let's go. Next question. So we have, what is something that you admire about the other person that inspires you to be better?
I think what I admire about you is your compassion towards people. And I think like just your compassion, and how open-minded you are, and how you kind of, you like to hear all different aspects before making like a decision. I think as far as for me, that inspires me, because it's like I could always, you know, extend more compassion, and I could always listen more, instead of thinking that like I already know what to do and how to go about it. So
Okay. And then for me, I feel like one of the things that I admire about you and that inspires me to be better is like I feel like I like how self-aware you are, or it's one of the things that I admire about you, because I feel like for a long time I wasn't necessarily like the driver in my life. And I think like watching you just every day in your everydayness, and like seeing the way you go about life, and like pushing yourself to follow your dream and push for your goals is something that inspires me, because I feel like it helps me, take responsibility for what the things that I want, and not letting outside factors tell me that I can't. And so I think that self-awareness is something that I'd want to like apply into my own life, and like it really pushes me to become better. So yeah. Okay, so let's go next question. So I think we kind of talked about this, but it's just a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
So it's, how do you grow individually while still being together?
Yeah, we did talk about this a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I think how we grow individually while I think it's like going back to what we said about like like making yourself happy first.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things fall in place after that,
Mm-hmm.
because once you take that charge and you're like, hey, like you take ownership of like what you want, like in your life and what you want to create, like your dreams and like your aspirations, then like you start going after it. And I think like one of the like main values I feel like I like to go by in like showing up for like the people in my relationships, like being in a relationship with you, but like also like extending it outward into like my family, my friends, and all that stuff, and like everyone that's close to me. I feel like we were able to once we're able to prioritize our own growth
Mm-hmm.
and what makes us happy and taking control of that, I feel like a lot of the other things fall into place, because then it's like you're taking like mass responsibility towards like
Yeah.
everything, right? And you're not like blaming people for like things that aren't going right, or like why you can't do something, and you're not blaming any like external factors. So once you're able to do that, like it relieves this pressure off people to like feel like they have to do a certain thing for you, or like, and XYZ, and in turn they can focus in on themselves too. And so it's kind of like this ripple effect of where once you do that with yourself and like the people that are closest to you, it kind of like makes the relationship better, because it's not so much like, oh, what do I need to do to serve you,
Yeah.
or like what do I need to do to make you happy, or like you're not walking on eggshells around like the person that like you love anymore. It's more so like, hey, like I'm freaking excited about my life because I'm going after like what I really want.
Yeah.
And so you're already in like a better mood. And like I would say that's like how our relationship works, is like I'm going after what I want, and I'm like happy. So then in turn I'm not like stressed out. So when I come to you, it's not like, oh my god, I'm so stressed out about like
This
da
or
da da
something.
and like make me happy. It's like, hey, like I'm pretty excited about this and this, like how's your day, or like what's happening in your life,
Yeah.
And I think that kind of energy, like negative energy, that's this energy of like being
Yeah.
excited about your life is like pretty contagious too, because it's like people want to be happy.
Yeah,
They
they
want
you
to
to be
feel
happy.
excited, and
Makes
so,
people
yeah.
makes people feel happy when you're feeling happy.
Yeah,
And
so
like,
it's like a ripple effect.
yeah, it's like a fat domino.
Yeah.
A domino of happiness. Just
Yeah.
okay, for sure. And then
And then
I think for me, to answer the question of how do I grow, or how do we grow individually while still being together, is just making sure that like I share like my goals with Kat, because then I feel like that way she knows what she like can do to help support me, and then like likewise I know what I can do to help support her. And it might not be like my responsibility to like help her reach that, but like I feel like I find happiness, or we find happiness in like being there for each other and supporting each other. And like I feel like that's kind of what makes our like relationship work, and makes it so mature, because like because of that side with like allowing each other into our lives to help us with our like to help each other with our goals.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think this question is pretty good. So what is a lesson that you learned from a previous relationship that enables you to be better? So for me, I think one huge lesson that I've learned in past relationships is to be able to, you know, fully like love someone from like in their entirety, because no one's the perfect person. Like no one is going to be the like perfect ideal like person in your eyes. And I think it was hard for me in the past to like love both sides, because I would always be like judgmental, like, oh, like I don't like this about this person or something, you know. And and that like idea in my head just kind of takes over, and it becomes so big that it engulfs even the good sides of the person too. And I think switching the focus to not necessarily like the bad part, but focusing on the good parts, it instead of letting the negative sides engulf the person, that you look at what like is good about them.
Mm.
And I feel like that really helped me, um helped me to become better, like not just in my relationships but just with everyone, and to be able to talk to people in a way that, you know, is non-judgmental. And I feel like understanding that helped me like have a more open-minded attitude towards people and like their lives. Because yeah, when people would tell me things before, I would feel like, oh, okay, yeah, that's you. Like, oh, that it doesn't sound like right to me. But like at the time, I was kind of immature, because like you really don't know like the what like other people are going through. You don't know if this could be like their last like straw before they crack, you know. And so just allowing myself to love someone in their entirety is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from previous relationships, that I feel like helps me be better in like my current life. Because I'm
My
gonna have
life.
another life later.
um yeah, I think that's important, you know, the loving someone entirely part,
Mhm.
because I definitely, that was like one of the lessons that I learned too about that. And I think that along with that lesson, I just read
I know, me too.
comment, I feel like a big lesson that I learned from a previous relationship that enabled me to be better in this relationship is not only loving someone fully too, but also what I was talking about earlier about how we grow is by leading by example and taking control of like our own life, like individually. And I think that's like a very powerful thing, because once you take control of your life individually, then it's like I said earlier, like a catalyst to everything, and you're not expecting something from like your partner or anyone else. And I think that just enables you to show up more like present with someone. It allows you to like be more, like for me, it allowed me to be more understanding, because it's like it's not so much, oh my god, this person is doing this to make me mad, or like this person like doesn't love me because they didn't do the XYZ, right? Like it's like, hey, oh my god, they didn't do this and I feel like some type of way, but like what is it telling me? Like what is it telling myself? Like why am I mad? Why am I like questioning, like kind of just like also like being mindful, but like questioning why I feel a certain type of way, and not immediately jumping and being like, hey, it's because you didn't do this to like that's why I'm not happy, and that's why you know, I don't want to like be, you know, all happy with you right now. Like I'm mad and I'm supposed to be mad. I think that is a big thing because I feel like we all go through a lot already in like our daily lives that like I think in our relationship, like, you know, whether it's like, you know, with like our significant other or, you know, with family, it's kind of like it's not going to be perfect, but like just kind of understand as much as possible and kind of like adjust as needed. Because like one thing that I forgot where I like heard this originally, but it's like everybody's like a mirror to you, where it's like why you feel a certain type of way, like you should probably look internally instead of trying to blame it on someone, because most of the time it might be something that like you need to like think about, or like something you haven't like let go of. Because a lot of times if I find myself like triggered, or like I feel myself like being mad or like being angry that like something didn't happen, like whether it's like in our relationship or like with someone else, I kind of have to like take a minute like to like sit there and not like before like go off just think like immediately. I kind of like sit there and I kind of ask myself questions, and I'm like, so why do I feel this way? And then I'll answer it, and then I'll be like, okay, so like a key question is this person doing this to me? And when you're in the heat of things, yes, you want to say, yes, he's doing it to me, or she's doing it to me, or they're doing it to me. But when all of that subsides and like you're not in your like the heat of like your emotion anymore, you're just like, nah, like I'm pretty sure. Like one key question I ask myself too, sometimes if I'm like super triggered, I'm like, hey, like are they doing this to me on purpose? And I'm like, like there's probably like had their own like ish going on that day, and like it just happened that I walked in this moment and they didn't do this, and you know, that's how I feel. And so I feel like I don't know how to like correctly label that, but like like that lesson of like taking a minute to assess like where it is, and like whenever there's like a problem or like there's like a disagreement. I think this is like the next biggest thing for me is that in whatever relationship, I feel like not just like a significant relationship, like your significant other, your boyfriend, girlfriend, but just in general, like when there's a problem that erupts in a relationship, like before I used to think, oh my God, like you're against me, like we're fighting and like I have to win this shit. And like if like I say, like it was like a big ego thing, but like I think whenever there's like a problem, it's like, hey, like it's you and the other person against the problem. You guys are trying to solve the problem. It's not like, yo, you guys are arguing each other, like battling each other. Like then that was like a big thing for me, because it's like, oh, like you're not mad at me and I'm not. It's not like I'm failing you. It's like there's a problem and we're trying to solve it over here. So it's you against the problem. You guys both, the relationship against the problem of
rather than like each other.
Rather than like, oh my God, this person doesn't love me.
Yeah.
And fighting.
That makes a lot of sense though. Because I feel like because you're talking a little bit about like emotional control and just being aware of your emotions and seeing, because I feel like there's definitely been times for me where like I let the emotions get the best of me, and whatever comes out of my mouth after that is like something that I definitely didn't want to say, you know?
Yeah, same.
And so I think that's the same for a lot of us, you know. We sometimes we let the emotions get the best of us, and like you just, I don't know, your brain just starts spewing out stuff to say, and then it's like something you don't want to say. And like you can't take those words back, you know. Like a lot of my friends that have seen me at that point, like they know what I mean. Like everyone knows. And so I feel like over time it's just been getting a lot better, you know, with just controlling my own emotions at least.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's a pretty cool lesson. So oh my God.
Don't emotionally shoot your partner.
Yeah.
Like with your words, you know? There's a lot of hurtful things that you can't be like Kirby, and you can't just it all back after it comes out of
You
your
can't
mouth.
control Z undo
Yeah, you can't undo what you
words.
say.
Once you say it, they're
It's
gonna
like-
remember that forever. So yeah, that's gonna conclude the podcast. Thank you guys for listening today. The podcast is going to be available on YouTube and the majority of podcasting platforms. I'm still waiting for Apple Podcasts to accept or approve my podcast. And it's still in the works. They haven't rejected me or anything. It's just Apple Podcasts is it takes the longest for this type of stuff. But the podcast is available on Spotify. I'm also going to be posting the video in long form on YouTube. And then also if you find my podcast on Anchor, you can find all the links to all of the podcasts. It's on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public. It's on all of them. So thank you for coming and listening today. I hope you guys have a great, wonderful day.